Welcome to the MedLook video tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to look at the charges in more detail, looking at some of the options that we can use and some of the features that are not quite so obvious and used less frequently. To begin with, let's just start down the lower right hand corner. If you had a facility already attached to a charge and you wanted to remove it, let's bring this charge in and then let's go into edit mode and we'll edit that charge, and you wanted to remove that facility, you simply hit the drop down box, click on the clear, which is the white button here, and then accept it, and then it's removed and you say save. You do the same thing for a referral or for just about any other item in the list. Underneath the facility we have the EPSDDT, and that has the drop down of NY1234. These options can be defined and the default set underneath the options dialog. Click on options and go to the patient charge default settings, and we see the HCFA box 24H EPSDDT is NY1234. You can change these values and the default by just simply rearranging or editing these. While we're here, let's look at some of the other options for the patient charges. We have remember units between charges. By default it's turned off. And what this is for is, like, in some offices or a clinic you may be administering like 2 or 3 shots, for the next 3 or 4 hours for people. That's all you're doing. So when you enter in your data, you like to have it remember the units of 2, 3, or 4, or whatever it is. So you just click that on, and then on the charge screen itself, the days units box 24G will be remembered between patients. Same thing then with modifiers, same thing applies. Box 17U pin, you would set that to yes if you want to use the doctor by default in box 17 as a referral. I don't recommend doing that. Box 23 CLIA is if you want to have the CLIA number by default printed in box 23. Box 24A to date, by default it says leave blank, but you can change it to match from date, so when you enter in the from date in box 24A, the to date is automatically populated. And then the EPSDDT we went over, and then the fee schedule, by default is blank, but you can set it to whatever one of your fee schedules you have. I've got it set to Medicaid for the default at the moment, and that's for what we'll see on the patient's account as we get going. Now, that's really all there is for the charges underneath the options. Let's look at some other items here. So box 23 CLIA, if we click it, it would put the CLIA in there if I had a CLIA number, but I don't. And box 24I, or I think it's I, yeah, box 24I, which is really now box 24C, replacing the box 24C type of service. Let's see, we got the coverage, we got the place of service. Okay, over here, if your patient has managed care, which you define managed care over on the patient edit screen, you'd come down here on the patient and you'd say, yeah, it's a managed care patient. Tell it how many visits were authorized, how many remaining, start, end date, and a managed care authorization number. So if we come back over here, it would tell us here's our managed care status, and we can also tell it on the options dialog when to give us a warning. Managed care, right there underneath patient account settings, warn when visits remaining are less than this number. So when it gets down to 3 or less, it's going to give us a warning as we're entering charges in, telling us that this patient only has so many visits left. So you can tell it for this particular procedure to use managed care, and then it'll fill in box 23 with a prior authorization from over there on that patient edit screen. A leave charge off form, again, is if you don't want to bill this to insurance, this particular transaction. If you want to turn a whole account off, just simply change the patient status to something other than active, and then filter based on that when you generate the claims. Ignore the copay and deductible completely. It's exactly what it says it does. This apply a debit to account is a way to enter a debit into the account without actually using a procedure code. You can simply come over here, enter in like 25, some sort of debit, and then give it a date, save it, and notice that over here we have a debit entered into our account, and that'll all come out in the ledger in the end. Go back to the charge, pick it off the debit, And I think that pretty much covers everything in the charge screen. Yes, the managed care, the prior authorization, the clear. We don't recommend this box 17 U pin. We say use the referral instead. Come over here to the patient screen and you can come down to the referral. I already have a referral set, so the referral will print on in box 17. The little button we have when we keep changing things, let's just change this. It's blue, means there's edit, and if I go to the transaction, this thing keeps coming up asking me if I want to save it or not. I keep saying no. I can come into the options and say don't bother me with that anymore, which is prompt on changes. I can say yes or no. If I say no, then it's just not going to make the change. So here we go. We make a quick change, and I go to transactions, and it doesn't ask me. When you're getting started, it's nice to have it ask you, but as you get going and become more proficient with the program, you're not going to want to be bothered with that. But that pretty much covers everything in the charge screen. This is pretty much obvious. It just clears out all the fields, hitting clear, reset charge. Um, that's it. I hope this helps you understand a little more about the charges. Good day.